You are not starting a family with a man. When you invite a man into your life, he ruins whatever semblance of family you would have had without him. And if you don't want to take my word for it, maybe you'll listen to other moms. I just spent way too long perusing a mom's subreddit. And mind you, this is just regular, like, mom as a parent subreddit. This isn't the marriage subreddit. This isn't the relationship advice subreddit. This isn't the subreddit for moms who are at the end of their rope. This is just like the original mom subreddit. Just to give you an idea of the top posts from the past year from moms on a mom-related subreddit are not about being a mom at all. They are actually about their male partner. I genuinely saw very few posts of anything that actually has to do with kids, but I saw dozens of posts that had to do with how shitty these women's husbands are. Mind you, again, this is not a subreddit where you come to complain about your husband. This is not a subreddit. It's just a subreddit for moms, like for mom stuff. Like, I thought I would be seeing posts about like breast pumps or, diaper warmers or whatever. Like, I did not think that I was going to walk into the subreddit and find post after post after post of women wishing that they had never met their husband or married him or had kids with him. So you can just go ahead and skip that step. We live in the future now. Go to a sperm bank. Go to a random man in Atlanta and then block his number. You have the copyrights to the baby. You made the baby. It's your baby. And honestly, if you don't plan on having the father of your children in your life, all you have to do is pretend like you care about him seeing those children. You'll never see that man again. Just tell him that you want to be a family, tell him the kids miss him, tell him, whatever you need to tell him, he'll go. Because the only time that these men are going to pretend to care about their own children is to manipulate you once you start trying to leave them. That's the only time these men up and start all of a sudden caring about their kids, and now they want visitation, they want to see them. Mind you, they've never changed a diaper in their life. They've never stayed home alone with these kids. You can't even trust a person like that to stay with your kid. But it's funny because up until that point, you literally can't force them to stay home and take care of their own children up until that point. So as long as you do want to have like a family with them, you want them to be involved in their children's lives, they're not going to do it. As soon as you say, goodbye, I'm leaving, I'm divorcing you, I'm taking the kids who you don't care about anyway, they're like, those kids are my fucking life. And they start fighting for custody and all this shit. And now it's just another headache for you. And it's funny, actually, like, I've been on Reddit for a while, and almost every female, like, centered subreddit at some point devolves into discussing and comparing the horrible men in these women's lives and trying to get advice from other women on how to deal with and escape out of dangerous situations that men put you in. Almost every female-centered subreddit eventually devolves down this rabbit hole. And the mom subreddit was no exception. So most of the top and most relatable posts were literally about how horrible these women's husbands are and how they don't want to take care of the kids, how they don't want to do anything around the house. And about half of those posts were like, I left for X amount of time and I came back and the house looked exactly as I left it, but a lot messier. He had done nothing, didn't lift a finger to clean, to cook for himself, anything. And when he did order food out, he just left the boxes and the bags and the napkins everywhere and just absolutely refused to clean up after himself. This will be, mind you, a man who's left alone, like without the children, and he cannot manage to have the wife come home to a clean house. You're signing up for torture, marrying a man and having kids with him. You really are, in 99% of cases. The other half of the posts were basically asking, like, how do you force yourself to lay down with your husband and have him do things to you and to your body when you A, don't enjoy it, B, he's into some weird shit that you don't want to do, or C, he is like one of your children and it feels weird to sleep with one of your children. But no matter how many times you explain that to him, he doesn't fucking get it. And he keeps just trying to get into your pants every single night, and then you have to reject him because you don't feel sexy around him at all because he is a child. Then he grows angry, bitter, and resentful towards you, starts threatening to not pay the bills, starts threatening to go outside the marriage, to have an affair, etc., etc. Peppered throughout are stories of men endangering their children's lives, as being extremely careless with their own life or the life of another person or the life of a pet. The list goes on and on. And the advice that these women give each other is leave him, your life will be easier. And a lot of these stories also start with before we had kids. Oh, this is very specifically advice to women who thought they had a man bagged with their wifey skills, only to discover that once those wifey skills are forced to turn into mommy skills, like mothering children skills, and they are actually extremely transferable because you'll be doing a lot of the same things for your kids that you were doing for your husband when you got married and before you had kids. He's going to grow incredibly resentful of the fact that you're not doting on him anymore and the fact that he is not the main object of your attention and affection anymore. These men will pressure you for postpartum favors in bed. A lot of these men will try to manipulate you with, well, I go to work every day. If you want me to do anything around the house, then you have to do do, favors in bed for me that you don't want to do. I read a story about a husband who locked his wife out of their bedroom for 3 hours so that he could play video games because he was mad that he had to go to the store and get medicine for their sick child. And when she confronted him and she said, "Are you really closing the door on me and your child right now so that you can play video games, even though your child is sick?" He said yes, and he slammed the door in her face and he locked it. And let's not even pretend like this is just shit that we see on the internet and like you can't go off of like subreddits and stuff. That's not real life. Think about the moms you know. Think about how much they do, and think about how their husband shows up in their family. This is not limited to the internet. This shows up very clearly all over in real life. Think about your own dad. Think about your own mom. How did that go for them? If the biggest part of life that you're looking forward to is having a kid, then have the damn kid. Do not let a man slow you down and traumatize you in addition to how traumatic it's already going to be giving birth and like the first few months postpartum. You should just not even have a man around. All of these women talk about, when I was postpartum, I wanted my husband to like disappear into the abyss. I did not care if I ever saw him again. Because most of these men are so damn unhelpful and so annoying. Women don't even want to be around them after they give birth. You'll be better off being around like your mom, sisters, best friends, aunts, whatever. Anyway, the hospital nurses, okay? You'll be better off around them without a man like shitting into your soul on top of the fact that you've just gone through hell to give birth to his child. Copyright the whole child. That's your child. Men hardly do anything to be called a father. Dads will almost literally like take their child off the face of this earth, and people will be like, well, we have to be understanding. It takes men longer to get into it. Well, at least he tried. Well, at least he stuck around. At least he didn't go out for a carton of milk and never come back. Like, no, the kids actually would have been better off if he did that. Because I picked up on this when I was a kid, actually. I grew up with a single mom. I remember always thinking, like, thank God I don't have a dad. Because every time one of my friends would talk about their dad, I'd be low-key horrified. I'd be like, I pray that my dad never finds me. Most of these women are married single moms anyway, with a useless husband, and not just useless, like an actively harmful husband. Because the moment that these men like to turn on you is when you become a caregiver to somebody else. Because that's what they wanted from you in the first place. When they were fat and happy and getting fed and getting BJs every day, or because you wanted to be the cool girl, you wanted to impress him or whatever. And now that you have a baby attached to you 24/7, your pants are not as easy to get into. Now, all of a sudden, nobody has a hot dinner on the stove. All of a sudden, nobody's like enthusiastic to suck on his little pee-pee. And he gets so mad and he gets so upset and he starts sabotaging you and your child. Again, if you don't believe me, go read. Go read it for yourself. Because at least being a single mom, the only person you have to pick up after is you and your kids. Not a thoughtless, grown-ass adult that can't be bothered to put his clothes in the hamper or to put the dishes in the sink. At least when children are doing that, it like makes sense logically, so you're not spending all day like gaslighting yourself into accepting something that is clearly illogical and should not be happening. If someone's a grown man, they should have certain shit fucking figured out, but they won't. And they'll expect you to just deal with that. And only treat you good when you're literally wiping their ass for them. And when you have a baby whose ass you literally have to wipe, they start getting jealous and insecure and apprehensive and sometimes violent because they don't like that. They don't like that you're wiping somebody else's shit now. Because they want to have their cake and eat it too. They want to have a wife who pays attention to them 100%, and also they want to have kids that they don't have to take care of. So somehow you're supposed to wake up fresh and ready after doing all the night feedings, all the wake ups, everything like that. You're supposed to get the baby ready and like doing something quiet while the two of you eat breakfast that you also cooked. And then he grabs his pre-made cup of coffee and he heads out the door to work. And by the time he gets home at 5 p.m., the baby's already in bed. Maybe he gives it a little kiss goodnight, eats the hot dinner that's been prepared for him. Then you two spend the rest of the night like having sex or playing video games or whatever. And then one day it's time to coach the little league. And that's really the part that they're looking forward to. That's the part of having kids that they feel entitled to. They want to be the mentor to somebody who looks up to them for no reason. And they want somebody else to do all the dirty work, all the butt wiping, including their butt. That's what you're signing up for with a man. And even when you're not, a lot of them will still do so little compared to their wife, compared to the mother of the child. They will always try to do the bare minimum. If they're not trying to actively harm your baby or just completely be hands off, the parts that they will do will be done badly so that you don't ask them to do it again. If you want a baby, have the baby. Have the baby. You don't need a man. A man will only make it worse, and it will disappoint you and break your heart. It's also very important to consider the fact that a lot of men prevent the mother of their child from properly bonding with that baby in its first few months of life because of how unhelpful and actively harmful a lot of them are. And a lot of people think that, oh, just because you have a husband, that means you don't need a village, that means you don't need help. That's not true. And a lot of women are too embarrassed to ask, so they just end up suffering. They end up doing too much. They end up sustaining postpartum injuries. They end up giving in to doing the man favors in the bedroom. Then that same husband will look him dead in the eye and go, I think you need to lose weight. Your stretch marks are unattractive. Your belly is unattractive. Your tits are saggy. Is that what you want? Because that's what they're going to do. And again, please don't tell me that I just read a bunch of shit on the internet. Think about your mom, your aunt, your cousin who got married before you. Think about your best friend. How's it going for them? How's it really going for them? Could they just like get up and go to a 6 a.m. yoga class ever again without like making sure their husband's awake, without making sure he has clear instructions on how to do everything but breathe for himself and for the baby? Actually come home and expect everything to have been handled and things to have been cleaned up and things to have been... No, you can't. You can maybe name one woman in your life that does that. And statistically, she is the exception. She's not the rule. She's the exception. A lot of men will be perfectly cool and chill as a cucumber until you have a baby that displaces them from the throne of being taken care of. He's gonna resent you when you have a kid. These men don't get their wives gifts. These men leave their wives' stocking empty on Christmas morning. These men complain about the food that's being made for them without them lifting a finger. These men want to eat something different every night. These men want to be having sex with you when you're 2 weeks postpartum. Like, the list never ends of what they want from you and of what they will take from you as long as you keep succumbing to their demands. They're a black hole. That's the point. There is no end to it. You give them an inch and they'll take a mile every time. Skip that step, ladies. Stay safe out there. I love you so much. Godspeed.